The family dinner erupted into a shouting match when the husband accused his wife of being stingy. "You work at a bank making a fortune, yet you refuse to buy your mother new curtains." The wife's patience finally snapped, and she unleashed the truth. Quote _1 _. Half an hour later, a knock sounded on the mother-in-law's door. She assumed it was a courier with the long-awaited curtains. "Hello, dear listeners. I'm delighted to welcome you to my channel. I have a new, captivating story for you today. Enjoy." Xenia had been a credit specialist at a Spurbank branch for 4 years. Her schedule was demanding, her clients often stressed. The pressure of mortgage quotas weighed heavily, but her salary was stable, $70,000 plus a bonus. This was the sole income the family could rely on. Her husband Igor hadn't found new employment in the 6 months since he was laid off from a logistics company. In fact, he hadn't even tried. He claimed the job market was in crisis. The companies offered meager pay for 12-hour days, and he wasn't willing to sacrifice his health for a mere $30,000. Xenia remained silent. She'd return home at 8 in the evening, exhausted, her feet swollen, her head throbbing from staring at the monitor. Igor, meanwhile, would be lounging on the sofa, scrolling on his phone. The kitchen would be filled with unwashed dishes, and there would be nothing cooking on the stove. She'd prepare dinner herself, quickly, from whatever leftovers remained in the refrigerator. He'd lift his head, ask what was for dinner, and then bury himself in his screen again. "Did you at least send out any resumes today?" Xenia would inquire cautiously, stirring pasta. "Sent them out," he'd grunt. Quote _5 _. She'd glance over his shoulder. On his screen, YouTube streams and messages and gaming chats. Not a single job board. His mother, Lyudmila Borisovna, called daily. She lived in the neighboring district, in a 2-room apartment she'd once received from her factory. The apartment was in disrepair, wallpaper peeled from the walls, and the plumbing leaked. Yet Lyudmila Borisovna preferred to complain rather than spend money. She constantly demanded help from her son and daughter-in-law, though whether it was screwing in a light bulb, bringing groceries, or assisting with documents at the multifunctional center. Quote 6, she'd read over the phone. "Come over and take a look. Maybe the plumbing needs attention." Igor would go. He'd return 3 hours later, weary and irritated. Quote 8, he'd say. Xenia would nod. She knew his mother would feed him pies, dote on him, and lament over her poor son, who'd lost his job due to the crisis and greedy employers. She'd invariably add a jab at her daughter-in-law, implying she didn't know how to care for her husband, which explained his supposed thinness. Igor wasn't losing weight. Quite the opposite. In 6 months of idleness, he gained weight. His belly was starting to protrude over his jeans. Xenia remained silent, trying not to notice, but the money was dwindling. Car payments, utilities, groceries. Xenia kept a spending tracker on her phone, logging expenses each evening and noting with dread how quickly the funds vanished. Igor ordered delivery almost daily. Sometimes sushi, sometimes burgers, sometimes pizza. She'd return from work to find empty boxes on the table, greasy napkins, and receipts. "Why are you ordering food?" She couldn't help but ask. He'd retort, "I'm hungry, you cook it." "I don't know how." "Learn." He'd look at her as if she'd suggested he fly to the moon. Xenia tried to save money, buying groceries on sale, forgoing new clothes, and wearing the same 3 blouses to work. Her colleagues joked about her capsule wardrobe, and she'd smile and nod, though a cold, hurt feeling would clench inside her. At the end of March, Lyudmila Borisovna announced she needed new curtains. The old ones, she claimed, were completely faded and hung like rags, an embarrassment before the neighbors. She found a beautiful set of tulle and drapes with tiebacks online, on sale for only $23,000. She cooed into the phone when she called. Xenia gritted her teeth. The mother-in-law's voice sharpened. "What groceries? Igor told me you're living on just buckwheat." Xenia wanted to retort that Igor spent more on deliveries than she did on groceries for 2 weeks, but she remained silent. "I'll think about it," she said neutrally and hung up. That evening, Igor returned from a walk. He took long walks every day now, claiming it helped him de-stress. Ksenia sat at her laptop, reconciling the family budget. The numbers didn't add up. They were in the red by $20,000 for the month. The credit card was stretched to its limit. _quote_23_Igor said, "Opening the refrigerator." Ksenia looked up. He slammed the refrigerator shut and turned around. Ksenia slowly closed her laptop. He frowned. His voice cracked into a shout. "Quote 39, quote 40. He stepped towards her, jabbing a finger in her direction. Quote 41. Something inside Ksenia broke. She stood up, straightened her back. Her voice became quiet, icy. Quote 42. A silence fell so profound that the sound of a passing car outside was audible. Igor stood with his mouth agape, red-faced, eyes bulging. Then he turned and stormed out of the room. The bedroom door slammed shut. Ksenia sat back down at the table, her hands trembling. She opened her banking app, scrolled through the transfer history to Igor's card, which he'd requested for, quote, $40,000 in January, $35,000 in February, $50,000 in March, plus purchases from their joint account, food deliveries, taxis, streaming subscriptions, games. In 3 months, over $250,000 spent on one person who wasn't working and wasn't looking for work. 10 minutes later, Igor emerged from the bedroom, already dressed in a jacket. He announced. Ksenia said. The door slammed shut. Ksenia was left alone. She sank onto the sofa, hugging her knees. One thought echoed in her mind. How had she ended up here? Transformed into an ATM meant to feed a grown, healthy man and his mother? She picked up her phone, opened her chat with her friend Dasha, who had divorced a year ago and was living alone with her daughter. Quote 48. The reply came instantly. Quote 49. Ksenia closed her eyes. She'd considered divorce every day for the past 2 months, but had been afraid. Afraid of scandal, of accusations, of Igor demanding a share of the car she'd paid for with her salary, afraid of judgment. After all, acquaintances considered them a good couple, envied them. They said Igor was so caring, helping his mother. But now, the fear receded. Only exhaustion and anger remained. She opened a marketplace, found the exact curtains Lyudmila Borisovna had chosen. 23,000. She added them to her cart, placed an order for delivery to her mother-in-law's address for tomorrow between 10 a.m. and noon. Recipient, Lyudmila Borisovna. Kravitz. Paid by card. Then she typed a message to Igor. Curtains ordered. They'll be delivered to Lyudmila Borisovna tomorrow before noon. 23,000. This is the last thing I'm buying for your family. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. You can stay with your mother. It'll be more convenient for me. Collect your things when I'm at work. She sent the message, put away her phone, stood up, and went to the kitchen, filled the kettle, sat at the table, and looked around the empty apartment. Quiet, peaceful, no food boxes, no demands, no Igor on the sofa. For the first time in 6 months, she felt a sense of relief. The next morning, Ksenia woke up early and got ready for work. Her phone remained silent. Igor hadn't replied to her message. She shrugged, drank her coffee, and left the house. The workday dragged slowly. Clients, documents, loan applications. During her lunch break, Ksenia visited a legal consultation website and booked an appointment with a family law attorney for Friday, 3 days away. The consultation cost $5,000, but it was worth it. At 3 p.m., her phone buzzed with calls. First, Lyudmila Borisovna. Ksenia declined the call. A minute later, she declined again. Then Igor? She silenced her phone and put it in her desk drawer. When the workday ended, she turned her phone back on. 32 missed calls, 20 messages. She opened her chat with Igor. Quote 51 Ksenia. Deleted the conversation, blocked his number, then blocked Lyudmila Borisovna. As she left the office, Igor was waiting by the entrance. He looked like he'd slept at his mother's. He was wearing the same clothes as yesterday, rumpled and stale. His face was gaunt, his eyes red. Quote, 52. He stepped towards her. She stopped, looked at him calmly. Quote, 53. Quote, 54. Quote, 55. Quote, 56. He ran a hand over his face. Ksenia smiled, cold and malicious. She walked around him and headed for her car. He ran after her. She stopped. She got into the car and started the engine. Igor stood on the sidewalk, bewildered, pathetic. In the rearview mirror, he grew smaller and smaller. At home, Ksenia changed, ordered a large, expensive pizza with seafood, sat on the sofa, put on a movie she'd long wanted to watch, and ate slowly, savoring every bite. No one sat next to her commenting or demanding she change the channel to soccer. 2 days later, she changed the locks. A week later, she filed for divorce. Igor tried calling from other numbers, sent messages from new social media accounts, and sent voice messages begging for a second chance, promising to change. Ksenia methodically blocked all contacts, without emotion. Lyudmila Borisovna once ambushed her near the apartment building. It was a Saturday morning, and Ksenia was going to the store. "You heartless wretch!" her mother-in-law screamed, blocking her path. "You ruined our family. My son is suffering because of you." Ksenia stopped and looked at her intently. Lyudmila Borisovna looked worn out. An old jacket, a stretch sweater, gray roots showing through her hair, and new curtains in her apartment windows. Ksenia had seen them out of the corner of her eye when she drove past the building recently. They hung beautifully with tiebacks. "Your son ruined himself," Ksenia said calmly, "and you helped him. You raised an infantile freeloader, and now you're reaping the consequences. How dare you? He worked until the crisis happened." The crisis happened 6 months ago. In 6 months, you can find any job if you want to. But Igor didn't want to. He wanted to lie on the couch and eat sushi, at my expense. "You're greedy. I'm pragmatic. There's a big difference." Lyudmila Borisovna stepped closer, poked Ksenia in the chest. "You'll regret this. Igor will find someone else, a normal one, and you'll end up alone." Ksenia removed her hand. "Don't touch me and don't come near me again or I'll call the police." She walked around her mother-in-law and went to her car. Lyudmila Borisovna shouted something after her, but Ksenia didn't look back. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Igor didn't show up for the hearing. He sent a lawyer who half-heartedly attempted to claim compensation for emotional distress. The judge dismissed it. No shared property, no children, no claims. Ksenia walked out of the courthouse, tilted her face towards the sun. June, hot. The city smelled of dust and blooming linden trees. She took out her phone and dialed Dasha. "Free," she said briefly. "Hooray!" her friend shouted into the phone. "We're celebrating tonight." That evening, they sat at a bar on a veranda, drinking white wine and eating bruschetta. Dasha talked about her new job, her daughter starting 1st grade. Ksenia listened, smiled, and felt something light, forgotten, unfurling within her. "You know," she said, finishing her glass, "I don't even regret it at all. On the contrary, I'm angry I didn't do it sooner." "It's always like that," Dasha nodded. "The first year after my divorce, I thought, damn, how much time did I waste? But it's okay. I caught up. I have so much free money now." Ksenia laughed. "I calculated the other day. I'm saving over $50,000 a month, simply because Igor isn't here. See, it's an investment in happiness." They clinked glasses. A month later, Ksenia was promoted. Senior manager, salary $95,000 plus commission. She bought herself a new iPhone, updated her wardrobe, and joined a gym. In the evenings, she made herself dinners. Not in a rush, but with pleasure. She tried new recipes, set the table beautifully, even when eating alone. She went to movies, the theater, met with friends, adopted a cat, a bold ginger tabby who slept on her pillow and purred in the mornings. One day, she ran into Lyudmila Borisovna at the supermarket. Her mother-in-law stood by the cereal aisle selecting the cheapest buckwheat. She looked older, tired. Xenia walked past without greeting her, then turned back out of curiosity. Her mother-in-law was watching her go, and her gaze held something akin to bewilderment. Xenia learned from Dasha that Igor still hadn't found a job. He was getting by with odd jobs, sometimes as a courier, sometimes a loader. He lived with his mother, who was now supporting him on her pension. One day, he sent a long message from a new number, apologizing, asking her to come back, promising everything would change. Xenia read it, smirked, and deleted it without replying. In early September, Xenia took a vacation, her first in 2 years. A week in Sochi, a good hotel, a massage, the sea. She sat in a restaurant by the shore, ate Dorado, drank white wine, and watched the sunset. Her phone was in her bag. She hadn't checked her email in 3 days. The wind ruffled her hair. The sea murmured softly and rhythmically. The waiter brought a dessert with berries. Xenia tasted it, closed her eyes in pleasure. At the next table, a couple in their early 30s were arguing in low voices. The woman was demanding something. The man was dismissive, engrossed in his phone. Xenia watched them go and thought, how good it is that this isn't about me anymore. She paid the bill, left a generous tip, and walked onto the embankment. She took off her shoes and walked along the water's edge. Waves lapped at her feet, warm and gentle. A full moon hung over the sea, and it seemed as if the whole world belonged only to her.